meeting to
I
order.
wouldn't do it earlier.
Do what?
I wouldn't do it earlier. You guys sign in. Print in, please, not sign in. Oh, is it, okay, if it's ready, then that's fine. Yep, no, but if it's ready.
Minutes are,
I did the other day, it was, what was that? Oh, dang, it was What does garlic do when it gets hot? It takes its clothes off. We're not in the meeting. I can't write that. We haven't started the meeting. This is ahead of time. That one says 9, we can deal with it. I'm fine with that.
well, calls meeting to order. Recess to the courtroom, motion to recess to the courtroom.
Motion made.
Second. All in favor? First thing on the agenda is public discussion on any item on this agenda and only on this agenda. Ashley is here from Woods County Dispatch. She's going to put a presentation on for us. When she is finished, any questions that you would like to ask her or us, we can go through those things after the presentation. If that work for you guys? Do it that way? Okay. So with that, I guess I'll just turn it over to you, Ashley.
Okay. Hello. No, this was working, but since you're all watching. Like Nate said, my name is Ashley Woodall, the Woods County 911 coordinator, or the Sarah of Woods County. I started at Woods County in 2012 as a floor dispatcher. I was promoted to coordinator in 2016. And a little bit about my background is I went to several trainings, consolidation trainings. And then I was a project manager whenever we brought Harbor County on board. We have what's called a virtual consolidation with them. So they were one of the last counties in the state of Oklahoma to come enhance 911. When you call 911 over there, they didn't have any alley or caller location ID, nothing on the map to pinpoint where you were at. So it was a heavy influence from the state of Oklahoma, the management authority, to get them off and running to be enhanced. And then we went ahead and partnered with them. We shared technology, and they dispatched their own calls.
Could you speak up a little bit more?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't have a mic, I'm sorry.
They don't move.
They don't move, okay. So some of the things that we're going to go over in the slideshow is our current governance at Woods County, the technologies that we have in place for 911 and dispatching, a little bit about where we're located, how we're funded, and the cost sharing that we have with our partners, call volume and how we process calls, non-dispatch tasks that we currently do, workforce staffing and scheduling, and then some of the things we've looked at if we were to partner with you guys. And then next steps. So Woods County 911 is governed by the Board of County Commissioners. That's who we answer to directly. We do have a 7-seat advisory board for the 911, and 2 of those seats are dedicated to our partners. So Harper County has a county commissioner and a first responder. Grant County has a county commissioner and a first responder. We have a county commissioner and first responder, and then I fill in that other spot as a mutual person. And Woods County dispatches for Woods and Grant County. Grant County, we dispatch for Medford EMS and the volunteer fire departments. Miller EMS covers for Pond Creek, so any call that is in their service area, we would transfer over there to them. And then they have their own law enforcement dispatch, so the same. The call comes into us, we're just going to verify that it's their service area and send it back their way. And then, like I mentioned, we're virtually consolidated with Harper County, which basically means we house their technology and their equipment, and then we act as a backup. So if their one dispatcher is in the jail, they get a 911 call, it's going to ring in Woods County, we're able to process it from there. We have a lot of technologies in 911. The first system that we have is a Zetron call taking, and we have Rapid SOS incorporated. So most of you probably aren't aware, but we're using 1970s technology when we process a 911 call. So it hits a cell tower, the tower has to read your location, and then it'll shoot it to where the appropriate 911 center based on that. But if you use Rapid SOS, they have partnered with any app on your phone that you've given GPS permissions. So if you have Uber Eats and it can find you, that is now what we're using to use. Because you've allowed Uber Eats to find you, now 911 can find you as long as you have a partnership with Rapid SOS. Our radio consoles are a Zetron Max console. Woods County and Harper County are both still analog. Grant County has moved to the Next Edge system, but we still page their first responders using 2-tone pages on the analog. We have a Zetron CAD system. CAD is a computer-aided dispatch, so it just automates what we're already doing in the 911 center. Some of the things that we have integrated into that is Rapid SOS, ESO, which is generating reports for Alfalfa Fire Department, so it sends our dispatch times over to them and starts their cards or their events. GeoSafe, and then Active 911 is also incorporated, so we're not having to manually send to those. We are in the process of implementing total response, which is protocols for dispatch procedures. So one of the big things that you face in 911 is not everybody answers the call and asks the same questions. This is going to mitigate that. GeoSafe we use as a GPS tracking for first responders. So on our fire departments, it has a toggle on the unit, that way you can find it. Law enforcement, they have it on their phones so we can see where they're at. Prepared Live is a third-party app that we use, and it allows for texting and data sharing with the public. So since we don't have a state EZNet, there is no way to have text to 911 or data. Currently on your call taking, this is a workaround for that. So if we have a 911 call, they don't answer, we send them a text, because today's society, they're a lot more likely to answer a text than they are to a phone call when they don't recognize the number. They can also send live footage of whatever's going on. So we've used it in domestic situations when they don't feel comfortable talking. We used it to see how big a fire is. And then we have access to download that, and they can use it, law enforcement can use it whenever they're processing or, or court. Active 911 is a third-party app that first responders in the field use to have call details in routing to the calls. And then Grant County has also just deployed the push-to-talk app. So instead of having handhelds for all of their volunteer firemen that are super expensive compared to the analog radios, they're using push-to-talk so they can get the tones on their phone and then talk to each other on it. Also, they can use it in the field as a tactical workaround channels. We have OLEDs, of course, which is a law enforcement application to run background checks. driver's license and anything that they would need. We use the mesonet pretty frequently when we have severe weather, we're watching that. But we also use it during fire season to monitor the critical or intense fire days. And then we also use it for hotspot monitoring on their Thursday app for that. And then we have a MediaWorks audio recorder that is just required by the state. So every admin line, 911 line, and all our radio lines are recorded, as well as any movement on the CAD system that I was talking about. So it has a lot of data that it records. Woods County Dispatch is located at the Woods County Courthouse in Alva. We have a radio tower on site, and then we have 3 additional repeaters throughout Woods County for coverage. Our dispatch furniture was replaced this previous year using grant funding from the Management Authority. It expanded each of our 2 primary positions from 4 screens to 8 because whenever I was talking about the technology, a lot of that requires its own screen for ease of use. And then we did add a 3rd position in the middle of those 2 for training purposes and for call overflow on really bad fire days or when we have plane crashes or, things that 2 people can't handle. That 3rd position will allow us to help out. Funding and cost sharing. So we're primarily funded. Woods County has a health and wellness sales tax. We get phone tariff monies from the state. We do charge dispatch service fees within Woods County. And then grant funding that we use to supplement capital and technology improvements. Whenever we bill out for dispatch services, we base that 90% on call volume and 10% on personnel station. And then, as I talked about earlier, we did partner with Harper County to share technology costs that makes it more equitable for everybody and easier to afford. And then we manage the tech because Harper County didn't have a 911 person, so they don't know what they don't know. So, yeah. Some of our calls for service, and this will be last year's numbers, of course. Grant County had 2,254. The city of Alva had 5,917. City of Winoka had 1,474, and then Woods County had 4,677. And Woods County would be all of our volunteer fire departments, and then the sheriff's office. Calls received, you can see that. So just over 4,000 911 calls. Total incoming admin calls are almost 31,000, and probably 20 of those are spam calls. I don't know if you guys have that, but it's getting pretty ridiculous. And then our outgoing admin calls. So as we talked about a little bit before, 911 comes in. If it's in our Woods County service area, then we're going to go ahead and dispatch our appropriate first responders. If it's outside of our service area, we're going to do a warm transfer to the correct PSAP or dispatch center. So basically that means that we're not just dumping the call over there and not explaining or talking to whoever we're sending it to. We're going to give them the lay of the land before we disconnect, and we're really going to sound the line as time allows. And we do have to transfer a lot. We'll get the 911, somebody calls 911 for a law enforcement reason in Grant County, when we send that over. We may have a miss route that comes here. We've had them from Noble. We get them pretty often from Sumner County. We've had a few from Alfalfa County. They've had a few from us because of the cell tower up at Capernway. So some of the non-dispatch tasks that we do is after hours utility calls, and really in our utility calls we'll transfer water calls or the city of Winoka electric calls to the appropriate person. Like I said, we manage OLEDs, and then we provide GIS services for all 4 counties. So we start at Harper, we do Woods, we do you guys currently here in Alfalfa County, and then we also provide GIS for Grant County. And some of that entails is assigning new addresses and managing the MSAG. And the MSAG is working with the cell towers to tell those 911 calls where they're going to be routed. So currently, Woods County has 9 full-time staff. 2 part-time, and then we do have 1 open full-time position. We work 12-hour shifts, and when we're fully staffed, we'll have 2 dispatchers on duty at a time. And then there's just a sample of our schedule. So we work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, off Wednesday, or Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have short shifts, and then we have what is a swing shift, and they switch back and forth in between day and nights to cover. So looking at if we were to partner with Alfalfa County, we did look at your calls for service. Alfalfa County answered or had 5,120. City of Cherokee had almost 6,000, and the town of Helena had 541. You took 1,495 911 calls. You had almost 15,000 incoming admin, and then 9,000 outgoing. Some of the things we considered was we both used the same Zetron radio console. We both use Active 911, which again was that third-party first responder app. We already provide your mapping services. And in saying that, we do have all of your map data incorporated into our dispatch center currently, including landmarks. And then we have automatic aid agreements. So we see those in use more in the southern part of our borders. Allen comes into Woods County 5 or 6 miles for medical and fire calls. Carmen comes in. There's a little bit of an overlap for Cherokee also. From the stakeholder perspective, I know some of the things that I've heard is, how are you going to find us? You don't know our roads. You don't know our area. You don't know whenever people are going to call and say, Joe Billa lives here, and that's where we need to go. So my response, or some of the things that we would use to help mitigate that is, or like I said, we've already included your map data into there. We do have landmarks that you guys had provided. Also, I have 2 employees that used to be Sarah's employees, so they are familiar with the area, and then I have another 2 that actually grew up in Cherokee and lived here their whole lives before moving to Alva. We do have the Prepared Live, that third-party app again. One of the things that it allows us to do is send a GPS link. So if we were to send a link, they would open it and it would automatically give us map data, so it would give us the caller location. We would have to have clear defined dispatch procedures and then an open line of communication, because there are going to be learning curves. We are going to make mistakes. Everybody is human and change is hard. So, and then we actually have incorporated, anytime we get a new employee as part of our training program, we already go over the Alfalfa County map. We go over major roads and any landmarks. That's part of the checkoff that we're currently doing. Just because we have rollover calls, so if somebody calls out a location we're not familiar with, we need to know quickly that that's not our call and where it goes, so that we're routing it correct. So some of the possible Alfalfa County funding and cost sharing. So if we were to consolidate, it enables both counties to share cost of funding 911 dispatch. Part of these cost sharing savings will extend to the communities paying for dispatch services. So basically, if you have 10 people paying, that's a lot cheaper than it is for 5. We would recommend to apply for consolidation grant through the Management Authority. Grants are rolling and would apply for any technology upgrades, radio tower work, or capital improvement that we would need to do. And it's an 80/20 reimbursement grant. And then I did go ahead and break down call volume percentage. So Alfalfa County attributes to 43% of the calls, City of Cherokee is 51%, and then Town of Helena is 4%.
When you say break down the calls, is that 911 calls coming in, or is that just radio logs in general?
That's calls for services based on your Otis calls for service numbers.
So like for us, if you call 911, it's a medical, you could be double dipping, because that's going to be a fire call, medical call, and
that would be, you would have 1 call for service for each area. So those numbers that I went over earlier, like the 5,900, I don't know how true that is, but that is the only figures that we had.
So you did go off that number then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those numbers were pretty close to correct.
Yeah. But, yeah. And there really are calls for service for each agency, even if you're going to the same, that's, yeah.
But, so on that 43, 51%, so City of Cherokee, 51%, if EMS and fire are going through Alfalfa County, is that is that part of that percent getting put into that 51% and 43% then?
We haven't discussed any, like who's gonna pay for what, as far as, are you talking about breakdown of,
Yeah, so like if someone gets a medical call in Cherokee, technically Alfalfa County is part of that because of EMS and fire, and then City of Cherokee is part of that because of police.
okay,
So when you go to break down that call, you might be putting percents in both categories. What percent would that be actually going to?
the only way to do that would be then to print off your calls and break them out. Yeah, I don't know a clear answer for that. Are you saying both will be paying for the same call?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Or is there a double dipping there, is what I'm saying.
I don't know that it's double dipping because again, you're both going to the call. Are you not gonna go to the call because you don't wanna pay for it? No,
No,
you're gonna go
it's-
because that's your job and that's what you need to do, right?
No, I get that.
Okay,
That's not what I'm talking about.
okay, I guess I'm sorry, I don't understand what.
So if you're gonna charge Alfalfa County or the City of Cherokee,
Uh-huh.
are you gonna split, like you're splitting that, like you could be splitting that percentage, like what if it was just a medical call, but it was in the City of Cherokee, we didn't go because we weren't dispatched?
Right.
And then that percentage gets put in all three categories, like. Because there's multiple entities into this.
Right.
And the City of Cherokee technically through this whole ordeal would be paying separately.
I don't know if they would be paying separately or not. That's gonna be the Board of County Commissioners, decision. But again, when it comes time to do that, we'll have to look at that as a concern. But the way that you could do it was actually print them out and start drilling down into, are you both going to the same call at this address? How do we wanna handle that? If it's one call versus that.
No, that's good, it's just a question.
Okay. And I mean, yeah, and that's what also, maybe we haven't considered it because I don't know how you work, so that's a very valid point.
Thank you.
Yep. So what would next steps be, so if Alfalfa County Commissioners do vote to engage Woods County for dispatch services, some of the next steps that we foresee would be contract review and some of those things about who's paying for what, how do we call, how are you guys gonna split that? Review of Alfalfa County dispatcher responsibilities and day-to-day operations, review of Sarah's job and what she does day-to-day. Both of those goals would be to make sure that we're not missing anything and we understand what the expectations would be. On-site tour of the dispatch center to review include technology review. We would need vendor quotes to make sure that we have enough equipment in place, and then stakeholder operational meeting. So meeting with law enforcement, fire, and EMS to understand what they're expecting from dispatch services. That's all I got. Some questions? I know there's a lot.
So who's going to pay if you need extra equipment? Is Alfalfa paying for you to get extra equipment so y'all can hear over here?
So that would be part of the grant that we foresee. And yes, the 20% probably would be Alfalfa County because you're coming on board to Woods County.
Okay, and y'all don't have the rave on there. Do y'all not use the rave at all?
We do have, no, we do. It is mandated by the state of Oklahoma that every PSAP has some form of communication with the school. That's recent legislature. So, and it doesn't have to be rave. I think there are 7 or 11 approved vendors, but Woods County does use rave for all of our school districts, yeah.
Okay, and how would you handle triple I's and stuff?
Triple I's, we did verify with Andrew that those could be emailed back over here because we have secure government emails, they have secure government emails, with the exception of Jim, and we would just have to get him one assigned.
Okay, but they're still going to have signed one.
Sure, but we can email them the form, they sign and email it back.
And the warrants and cattle calls?
Warrants and cattle calls would have to be worked out operationally with Gary. So, and again, we haven't had a lot of operational costs. So far, the conversations have basically been, hey, we don't have enough money, what would it look like if we came with you guys? So that's where we've been at.
Well, if you don't do Grant County's police and they have their own dispatch, then you're supposed to, I understand, take everything we do or nothing that we do. So how's that gonna work out?
Again, everything or nothing, that's gonna be a decision by your county commissioners, so,
I think what she's saying,
yeah.
so like if Alfalfa County went, EMS went, and fire went, Cherokee Dispatch had their own deal. There's been a lot of instances, like me personally, I've been the one doing CPR and had a call for backup.
Right.
If there's two separate entities, no one's calling Cherokee Police, that means we're not the first ones there in that first 5 minutes of the CPR.
So the one great thing about CAD is you have run reports and recommended resources. So based on location and call type, it's going to tell you who the appropriate response area is. Your response areas, I don't foresee changing at all. So it would have Cherokee, if it's not, and you would dispatch them all. You guys already use active. So as soon as we click and attach them, it's sending you the active notification. We would we can key up and talk to everybody at the same time theoretically and tell you guys that. But it wouldn't work in your case because you guys went to next edge. So unless you were on EMS's like scanning to get those 2 tones, we would then have to key up and tell you after we're done dropping tones that you're needed.
Yeah, just to clarify though, so already established, so Grant County still has law enforcement dispatchers.
Correct, dispatcher
Woods
jailers.
County covers 911 for fire EMS.
Every 911 call comes in.
Sorry, yeah. Every 911 call, but specifically dispatching for 911 EMS. Can you go back and clarify with Harper County?
Yes.
That you said there was a Harper County dispatch.
Correct. Yes, they have one position in their dispatcher/jailers in Buffalo, and that's their primary, that's their 911 center. They also have what's considered an ECC, so just a comm center in Laverne, and they handle Laverne Fire, Laverne EMS, Laverne PD, utility calls, and then May Fire Department. Okay. So theirs is a little more complicated. Again, if they get a call and it's not in their area, then they're going to transfer that over to Laverne to take care of.
So if Woods County was to take Alfalfa County and Cherokee, it would be unique insofar as like having full coverage compared to the other.
It would be like we operate in Woods County today, but just here.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you have to transfer the calls, so doesn't that take longer?
We wouldn't have to transfer the calls because
You guys would just be dispatching them there.
yeah, we would dispatch from there, yeah.
Doesn't it take longer for you to dispatch the calls to the other one though? Like transferring them over, does that affect your guys' times?
Of course, it would affect any time. Anytime you have to transfer a 911 call, that you're starting all over essentially, unless you have a virtual consolidation, which is what we have with Harper County, and that's why we insisted. It's actually, we're also connected with Grant County via CAD, so whenever we get the 911 call, we're automatically putting in the location, incident type. So when Grant County answers it, they just need to verify, and we'll also put call T-Delta domestic at this address. So theoretically, all they would have to do is verify that and then send their people. And we would stay on the phone and actually send their active to them to work with them.
So each county still has dispatchers, so
The way
Alfalfa County would have to have dispatchers.
No, you wouldn't have to.
So what's gonna happen to everybody's job?
That's not a Ashley decision. But like I said, we do have one full-time position. We have talked about it with Damien and I, and we have left it open if this project were to proceed. Everybody is more than welcome to come over and apply, but we could only hire one out of the pool.
So for each call you take, you bill the appropriate department?
And when you say bill, no, we don't bill for calls. But what we've done is looked at our operating budget. The state of Oklahoma has said your 911 fee money that you get, so whenever you pay a cell phone and that extra tax for 911 goes to the state, they send it back to you. They have a list of approved expenses, but in their mind, that money should cover 911. It doesn't cover dispatch. So we have taken our budget and divided it into 911 and dispatch. So all of the fee money is going to pay for technology for 911, and half of our personnel services. The other half is dispatch services. So this half that is dispatch service now, we have divided that between Woods County pays, the city of Alva pays, the city of Winoka pays, and then Grant County pays, because we provide dispatch services to those people. So if Alfalfa County were to come aboard, we would then add their call numbers into that and re-split up between five entities, or however they want it split up. That hasn't been decided.
So you get all the tariff money and everything.
Yes, all the tariff money, and that is going to now pay for the technology and the maintenance on the additional systems. If there was any left over, then that amount would then go and offset some of the dispatch service cost.
You were able to pull all the calls. Do you have any data on your response time
For Woods County?
for all of the counties, even the ones that you've taken?
Yeah, so anybody Woods County, yes. We would have any calls that we dispatched for Grant County. Harper County isn't the best about using CAD, so their dispatch times are not going to be accurate because they don't use it. But yes, we could pull any dispatch times that were requested, yes ma'am.
How do we get a hold of you, or how do we see those?
Yeah, so if you call the dispatch center and just fill out an open records request, we could get you that information. Yeah.
You're probably gonna have to build like a tower or like something to like your courthouse or something, I'm sure. Maybe who's gonna pay for those changes? Alfalfa County, the grant, tariff, whatever money?
So we wouldn't have to build a tower from what we've talked about with our vendor. We already have a directional antenna over here that we have used to speak in the past. When you guys went to Next Edge, we did not replace that radio, and we haven't been able to get any PL tones or any way to get on that system. However, because Alfalfa County already has the like system, they have the Zetron, we can make them talk like we do Harper County.
We don't have Zetron anymore.
You don't have Zetron anymore? Okay, so that's different. So then, yes, we would just, we took a lightning strike and we have to replace antennas and cabling anyways. So we'd put a combiner up and then shoot it this way. Which is similar to what we do with Grant County, and it would be included in that 80-20 grant that we're applying for. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think your dispatchers are ready to take on another county?
I think your call volume and our call volume together, yes, we would be able to absorb it. Yeah. Now,
Essentially, Woods County's not actually at this current time really dispatching any more than what we did when it was a single dispatcher over at the city. I think the two will work together well. I mean, we're borderline having too much staff for the call volume as it is.
What would you say if it doesn't work out? Like from your perspective, if this just is not working, what would you say?
What would I say?
Yeah, like personally, what would you?
Why wouldn't it, like, can you give me an example of why it wouldn't be working out?
I just know that like they do a very good job here and like they know everybody. If somebody calls and says, I'm so-and-so, everybody's at your house before you're even done telling them what the problem is.
Right, I understand, yeah.
If it just, the community's not like, like we just don't, it's not working, there can be so many reasons it doesn't work. Like,
Right.
what's the process on that? Do you guys like take it back and look again, or do we just say this is how it is?
So we're both government entities. We can only sign a single year agreement, and that would be in the contract. And the current agreements that we have with everybody is 90-day notice written that something needs to change. So there is that revenue. And Heather, you were asking about call volume. I do anticipate on high fire danger days or maybe event days that we would have to have a third person come in and fill in that position. And we already do that now currently. If it's a really bad fire day, we're going to get 70-mile-an-hour winds.
Because it wasn't very long ago, I had a huge fire, and I had almost every fire department out there, plus some from Grant County.
Right. And we've
battling
it. Right. On bad fire days, we've had task force going all over, had something popped off, had to, we're kind of lean, and Woods County had to call you over. Luckily, you guys were pretty close. We got it out before it got in the Cedars for that, and we went on about our day. But, yeah.
Do you know what approximately the additional cost to the tariff money it would cost the county?
I think I'm hesitant to say because I haven't gotten vendor quotes to know what the ongoing maintenance is going to be. And we were already notified that Z-Tron was going to increase our maintenance costs. So I can't even base it on what we've been paying because we don't know, they've been going back and forth in negotiations between Stoles and Z-Tron about what those were gonna be. But yeah, I've given the number to the commissioners, but I don't feel comfortable saying it in public just because I don't want it to be so far off. Is that fair to you guys, or would you?
You can go ahead.
Okay, so we think about 150,000 on top of your phone tariff money. But your phone tariff money, they told us 170, you said it might be closer to 180.
Yeah.
So,
I'd have to look at it.
again, if it's 180, depending on how those other quotes come back, there's gonna be some overage that could offset that and lower it.
But on that phone tariff, so if the city of Cherokee is separate from the county, would that phone tariff percentage that goes from those 6,000 calls of Cherokee be going back to the city of Cherokee if we're gonna be paying into another county to do our dispatching? So that would drop the county's percentage of phone tariff money.
So you're saying that the city of Cherokee is not gonna come to Woods County?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm
Okay, you're saying
some of these
hypothetically?
numbers- When I'm saying these numbers, all this phone tariff money for Alfalfa County,
Uh-huh.
the Cherokee Police Department would have to pay separately. So with that phone tariff money for that, whatever we're getting into this, wouldn't that be going back for our percentage to pay into Woods County?
To me, Cherokee is Alfalfa County, so if we're looking at phone tariff money, some of that is the citizens of Cherokee paying for it, so it would make your cost just as much offset as it would make their cost. Does that answer?
I mean, yeah, no, I understand that, but I was like, I don't want, the county, what I'm saying, if this, Cherokee's gonna be paying separately into Woods County, period, I believe.
You think, okay,
I think that's how it's gonna end up being.
Okay.
We're gonna be paying separately.
uh-huh,
So whatever percentage the county is banking on their numbers, that should change, because that's going back to us if we'd be paying into Woods County.
yeah, I think if one of you change, you all change, I think all three of you change. So if there was a savings because of all three of your contributions on the phone tariff money, then there would be a savings for all three of you on the dispatch side. And that should be probably based on your call volume, if that's what we're looking at for everybody. So the city of Cherokee would have the most savings versus the other two.
Setting all your budget aside, what do you think is the biggest impact on the local citizens of Alfalfa County?
I think it's going to be building trust, like it's been brought up several times. These people know you, you know them. You don't know me and I don't know you. And that's going to take a while to build that trust and build that relationship. And it has to be based on a little bit of grace and a lot of work before we ever get ready to launch and go live. A lot of work with these people as long as they're willing to, and a lot of work with the other first responders to make sure that we're meeting expectations and we understand expectations and we have the policies and procedures in place to do so.
But no real benefits.
Oh, no, real, the benefit for Alfalfa County is if they cannot afford to continue to pay for it, it's going to be cheaper than what is currently in place.
So it's all about money. Not healthcare.
Sarah said we have enough money in our one account to pay for all the dispatchers' jobs for 2 years except for the benefits.
I said we have at least enough for a year. And with
Well,
money
and
that
also,
comes
I'm
in
not
too.
gonna
But
sit
that's
up
in the
here and
tariff
say
and
that
sales tax.
I'm gonna provide better service than what they, I would never disrespect any other dispatch service like that, and I don't know if that, so I think we both do the same job. We answer a 911 call and we dispatch our people where they need to go to meet the expectations and the needs of the public. So in that way, the job is the same.
In your dealings with bringing over Grant County, Harper County, some of us have worked pretty hard to get our ISO numbers down.
Okay.
Like I know when I started 18 years ago, we were somewhere around a 7 or an 8. Currently at a 4 and a 4Y. I know Johnny's sitting on a 4 and a 4Y at Goldtree. Do you see that ISO's? I mean, dispatching is a huge thing.
It is
ISO,
a huge
they
thing,
sit down.
yes.
Do you see that changing our ISO ratings and then increasing
It
insurance for our
could,
people?
you've got some points on the board because you're not using the CAD. That right there is a huge, I can't remember how many points it was the last time we did one because it's been a couple years since I filled out the paperwork. But I want to say it was like 7 or 8 points. That was a big deal whenever we added CAD when Miller was doing his. So there are some things like that. Also, the CAD report does have appropriate and what you need to justify your dispatch times. I don't know if you've done it in a while, but it's not near as easy. The first ISO that we participated in may have like 5 or 6 questions. Now we have 2 or 3 pages that is just dedicated to dispatch. So yeah, we're a point getter in that, in my experience.
So you don't think us moving our dispatch to Woods County would hinder or hurt?
I don't know why it would, no sir.
Sounds like it may help.
Yeah, and I don't know, like the generator questions, and I know you guys probably have a generator, but Otis does not count as a CAD, so.
No, it does not.
Yeah, because they don't geolocate, but they're working on it, so.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know everybody is upset with you, or
Just a situation.
harsh at you,
Yes.
but our commissioners are the ones that called you, correct?
Yes, ma'am, we did not seek out any, it's been a hard thing for me because, we work closely. And, they put up with a lot over the years over here about, somebody's upset and we'll just send it to Woods County. And we didn't ever want to be the scapegoat for somebody losing their job. That's a very uncomfortable position because at the end of the day, we have to work together. And like I said, we're doing the same job and trying our best. So yes, we were approached because they didn't see any other way to continue and not bankrupt the county is the impression that I got, yes. So, and if it came to that point, and I told Sarah this the other day, if it comes to the point where you have to go somewhere else, we'd much rather take care of you than see it go elsewhere. So, because of the partnerships we've had.
So do you have like a ballpark what the total cost for us to go over there would be?
As far as what the grant and stuff, I am waiting, like I said, on all the vendor quotes. And we're gonna have to update because whenever I pulled your audit this last year, I think it still had Zetron, the console and stuff, so that's gonna be an anticipated cost. And we may honestly look at just putting a console in, even though it's gonna be more money up front. It'll be better radio connection in the end if we don't have to rely on the directional antenna just because of the landmarks and weather and stuff. So I don't have a ballpark. I can tell you the last time we replaced a radio console, it was $110,000. Because we already have the server in place and some of those other things, it's not going to be what we paid up front, but I don't know. It's going to be some money. It's going to be a chunk of money for sure.
Sarah, what's the budget amount that you submitted? I can't remember off the top of my head. What does it cost to do dispatch for a year? I can't remember off the top of my
I
head.
actually added extra positions on the county general since we were anticipating replacing the 911 system and with reimbursement grants. So we had to be able to pay for it first. But we have enough money in cash accounts. I'm not sure what I asked for in county general.
What you have in your cash accounts?
No, how much did I ask for out of county general?
Oh, on your
the
budget?
I want to say it was probably $300,000 to $400,000.
I was thinking
It was
911 asked for,
they gave me right at $200,000.
$138,000.
138,000?
Is that all?
Last year, she asked for $97,940.
And then,
We always start higher and then she
Right.
knows, she knows what she has in her cash account, she knows what she can come down to.
Right.
and then you have your sales tax, some of that
I have
used too.
sales tax and tariff.
Right.
And a tariff,
I'm
yeah.
kind of just talking so everybody knows where all that comes.
I do, we're anticipating replacing 911, make sure there's enough cash in that 911 tariff account to pay for it before we get
So,
that
like,
She has over
reimbursement.
300,000 in
Yeah,
her
I
tariff
said
account,
ballpark
she
is-
has over 156,000 in her
Right.
sales tax account.
Ballpark for like a year, it's like 350,000 to be dispatched.
So,
What did you
so
decide?
what's the round figure to operate for a year?
Yeah.
I think it's around 400,000 right now since we cut back staff. Last year it was
A little over
500,
400,000.
so I think since we cut back staff, I want to say it's
So can we
400 to
see
500,000.
Alfalfa County's budget to see where the money's going?
Public online.
Yeah.
This next item agenda, we're gonna cover, the estimate of needs and what
Right.
the problems are. If we have anything else for Ashley that they'd like to ask, we can close out that part of the agenda.
Thank you, Ashley.
I have one
Thank
more
you,
question.
Ashley. Sorry for being harsh, but you know.
You're fine.
Are all our dispatchers, is Gary here?
Yeah, Gary's over there.
Oh, I can't see. Are all our dispatchers cross-trained to do like the jailer and the dispatch? Or it's one jailer and one dispatch, or how is that?
Right now, we have all the jailers cross-trained except for one in dispatch, just being able to answer phones and get what they need done when the dispatcher needs to go to the restroom or wherever it needs to
Right.
be.
Right.
And I think everybody but Toby's been trained in jail because we
We've been
used to
here
be.
so long, we
Right.
used to be jailers.
When most of us started, we did both sides.
Okay.
So,
And Toby has worked on it, like he's done bookend and stuff, done training.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's not really for you, it's just kind of a general statement. I know Alfalfa County EMS has a lot of money. They get interest every year. To me, they're kind of under the same umbrella because it takes the 911 operator to get the ambulance there. Is there a way to move any of that EMS money, maybe just the interest, to bump it to where that would pay the rest of the salaries of the You can't move that money.
Move
That
money
money's
from
tagged
fund
for
to fund.
EMS.
Yeah, fund-to-fund money cannot move, so this is county general, whereas they have their own fund, and so we can't just take
It's a
the
sales tax
tax money
fund, and
and put it
sales
on
tax
their
is earmarked for a certain thing.
Yes, and sales taxes earmarked for something.
I mean,
Any other
overall
questions
cost-
for Ashley, guys?
I know they have.
Any other questions for Ashley?
Well, can I just say, I think it's awesome that you all showed up. I serve on the city council at Winoka, and we may have one person or two person come, so to see you here fighting for your people means a lot to me, so thank you.
I have one other question.
Yep.
If we ever got into something like a large-scale incident, tornado,
Sure.
across multi-jurisdictions,
Yeah.
with many different agencies going from Woods County to Alfalfa County, even into Grant County, would you be able to handle something like that? Have you trained for those things?
Yes, sir. After Anderson Creek, when you burned half of Kansas down, you learned some things. One of the big things we took from that is not knowing what Unified Command is and how it was supposed to work, and resource requisitioning and stuff, who was able to authorize that. So we've put a big focus on that. So I'm going to say our two newest haven't been, but everybody else has been to ICS 3
Because I
and
know the
400.
person that's out there running those incidents is relying heavily on
Correct.
a dispatching center. Would you be dedicating somebody to a large-scale incident at that point?
Yeah, and we've actually had 3 go in get certified in incident tactical dispatching, so to be able to deploy them. And now that you bring that up, Grant County has a comms trailer in place with all of our equipment. Whenever we add a third position, the goal would be, or the reality would be, all 3 of those would be laptops, be able to move, put it into the comms trailer, and then have a MIDI mobile command unit.
And I would assume you also have the ability to turn into an EOC?
Yes,
Okay.
there, yeah. And we've talked about it whenever we had the One Oak. We offered to send somebody over. Grant County was comfortable just keeping theirs, and then we kept the dispatch open, so kept them separate that way. So yeah, you always say it's not going to happen to you, but the reality is how many times it's happened to you before you prepare.
Just a few weeks ago in Garfield County.
Right, and we're lucky it didn't happen in Grant County. You know, a touchdown. 1 minute, they go out to storm watch. The next, there's tornado on the ground for 20 minutes. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else for Ashley? Thanks, Ashley, appreciate it. Commissioner Stinson from Grant County was wanting to be here to speak. He had other obligations, so he emailed a letter that he asked us if we would read for him, and so, Jared, you want to read that?
To whom it may concern, my name is Steve Stinson, and I serve as District 3 Commissioner for Grant County. I'm writing to provide insight into our current 911 dispatch service structure. For several years, Grant County has partnered with Woods County and Harper counties for dispatch services. This regional approach was adopted because the regulatory requirements and associated costs of maintaining independent operations were no longer sustainable for a county with our population and tax revenue base. While this transition initially met with some resistance from citizens and local emergency agencies due to minor operational adjustments, the partnership has proven to be a fiscal responsible solution to our ongoing budget challenges. Furthermore, the Grant County Sheriff's Office continues to employ staff who fulfill dual roles as dispatchers and jailers. This allows us to effectively manage non-emergency inquiries and provide in-person assistance while maintaining our commitment to the regional 911 system. We remain satisfied with this arrangement as it allows us to utilize taxpayer funds efficiently while maintaining essential services. Steve Stinson.
Okay. With that, if there's nothing else on that subject, we can move on to discussion on the shortfall from the estimated needs for fiscal year 26-27. I think we'll just start this. Juanita was able to get some information for me and Jennifer as well, and Jennifer was able to combine it into a little probably don't have enough for everybody, so
I printed more and sent them that way.
do what?
I printed more
Oh,
and
you
sent
did?
them that way.
Do it.
They're just not staying. There's two graphs. There's a sales tax graph and there's an NIV.
Kelsey.
We need a couple, sorry.
Yeah, I heard. Got to keep on part of that.
Kelsey, we need a couple more. That's it.
That's it.
Look at that.
I got more if anybody else wants some.
Okay. I know there's been a lot of talk about, where's the money? Where's the money? Why are we in this situation and things like that? And so this can try to help explain some of this as what's going on and why we're in the difficulties that we're in right now. And in the foreseeable future, unless something changes, I don't see it getting a whole lot better. It's probably going to slowly get a little bit worse. And next year, there's some legislation that was passed this year that's going to affect us again. So with that, Jennifer, would you like to kind of explain what we're...
Well, I can't say anything to the sales tax because I just put it in a spreadsheet and it graphed it. Anybody who's run Excel could have done the same thing. The only thing I can talk about is net assessed value. So the legislation that Nate is discussing is it's going to exempt oil and gas gathering lines. I've already talked to school superintendents. This is hitting them very hard too. The impact from exempting oil and gas gathering lines is very impossible for me to calculate because I don't know if every pipeline in our county is going to go exempt. That's the worst case scenario. The legislation says it has to be owner-operator. They didn't just change the operator's name. I've estimated anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000 impact to Alfalfa County. The schools are worse. We didn't pass this legislation. Our senator voted no. Our net assessed value, I estimate this year is going to be about the same. I have one company that is probably going to a lawsuit this year because their pipeline this year is valued at $20 million. They want me to change it to $5 million. This legislation is going to exempt a lot of our assets in our county. I didn't do this. I've been at the Capitol, I've advocated for you guys, I've advocated for our schools. We've had lawsuits, they've not gone in our favor. I can't stop the ball rolling on net assessed value. I'm sorry. Our county is heavily farm related. Farm ground is not assessed at a market value. I know everybody says, well, my taxes are too high. Honestly, the market from the oil boom showed increased housing prices. They're starting to slowly stagnate down. So even aside from our oil and gas, there's a slight decline. But this oil and gas thing is something that it's done. The governor signed it. It will take effect in 2027. And I don't know if we're going to lose $150,000 or $300,000 to the county. I've already talked to the schools about what their districts are going to look like. But we get 10 mills out of every dollar, the county gets about 13 cents. So, but you guys got to understand that there are probably 5 oil companies that have more asset dollars than every tractor, every business, every house, every farm in the entire county combined. Those 5 companies will bankrupt us. That's what the net assessed value is going to do. I anticipate right now we're at about 112 million net assessed value. Peak times we were at about 150 during the oil boom. With this new legislation, instead of 112,000, we could get as low as 95. I think about 14 million of our net assessed value will be exempt. Does anybody have any questions about net assessed value or how it dictates the budget? The budget starts with net assessed value both for schools and for EMS, and well, EMS has a lot of other things, but EMS gets a little bit of net assessed value, tax dollars, and so does the county.
How much is EMS generating a year?
You take 112 million times 0.003. They get 3 mils.
On this graph on the sales tax, I mean, a lot of that is due to us losing crops. A lot of that is due to the oil boom going away. I mean, people aren't coming in here buying gas, buying pop, buying food. The one increase that is on here is not really an actual increase. We had some sales from an oil company, some proceeds from a sale. We kind of held on to that because oil companies are really good about a couple years later going, oh, that was a mistake. It should have come to us. So our budget maker told us to kind of set on that for a couple years to make sure they wasn't going to come back and get it. After we set it on a couple of years, they did not ask for it back, so we applied it to our sales tax. So that's why there's the only one increase on there was due to that. It should have happened a couple years before, but we were just terrified they were going to ask about it. So you can see how our sales tax has just come down. Nate looked at our sales tax all the way back to 2010. We're right in the area where we were at in 2010 before the oil boom. So, I mean, everything is just going, our valuation is in a downward trend. Our sales tax is on a downward trend. Legislation is just going crazy. So that hurts us. Those 3 things just hitting us are just huge impacts on our schools. I mean, they're bigger impact on our schools than it is on us. Huge impacts on our cities, huge impact on the counties, huge impact on our EMS. I mean, you guys see it as you go to the grocery store. A gallon of milk. I mean, it's just
You know, I could go and get $100 worth of groceries and I could not carry them out. Now I can go in and get $100 worth of groceries and I can carry them out. I mean, it's just your home pocketbook in a larger scale for us, even larger scale for the schools. I mean, it's just hitting everybody hard.
I know up front this would save money, but what is, so, biggest thing with Grant kept their sheriff's office direct and
Yeah.
their dispatch.
They retained a dispatcher jailor.
What do they do with their OLEDs? They still have an OLEDs there?
They do have an OLEDs, yeah.
So if we get rid of our OLEDs, this is gonna affect the city, like 6,000 calls. We're gonna start putting more mics, now we gotta go, all of our triple I's going to Woods County, doing all our backup cameras.
We'll email you
We gotta
your
sign
returns.
for them though.
She said you could email
You
that.
can, yeah, you can email the sign. Yeah, and I know that because the state park, I had a state park, Chase went down, filled in at Romano's, called back, Romano's, they're dispatched out of Weatherford, and he didn't sign for it, he picked it up, didn't sign for it, and he was freaking out. Andrew okayed it, so the auditor has
So you
okayed for it
can't
to be
electronic
signed.
now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it the sheriff's choice to keep dispatch there, or?
Yes, and Grant County came aboard before I came on, so I don't know how those initial discussions went or why that decision was made. But yeah, that would have been the
Did he
sheriff's.
pay for that out of his own budget, or?
He gets a budget from the county, but
Right.
I know that's a constant push and
Yeah,
pull about, yeah. Because there's never enough money for anybody.
Yeah.
Sorry, my mama is calling.
Does anybody else have anything?
So why is it always dispatches you're trying to get rid of?
We've been changing things up, but everybody's been having to make cuts.
Been robbing Peter to pay Paul, and Peter's out of money.
You say that, but there's some that
Truth.
got raises and got more people.
But you got a raise too.
No, we didn't.
We haven't had a
Not
raise
the
for a
last
long
one.
time.
No.
No,
I
we
thought
haven't.
Gary gave you
Gary,
that.
He didn't
no,
get that.
Gary.
We didn't get it.
He gave the jailer raises, but we didn't.
But aren't you a jailer too, or did you all?
We did not, we aren't under him, so we did not.
We didn't get raises.
Not in the last one.
So you say we don't have money, but we're still continually spending.
We've been cutting for the last 3 years since I've been.
Highway is a total
But
different.
even on that, hold on a second, even on that, I know when us three, well, Mike come in office before, I had 16 employees, I'm down to 12. I know Mike, same deal, Nate, same deal. It's not like we haven't made
Well, we've had
any
10,
change at
and
all.
we're down
We've
to
made
6,
cuts
so-
too, because of money also.
And you do have to remember, this is the budgeted account that we're talking about. They operate on cash accounts for people that may not know. Them
Gasoline,
and some
diesel.
other entities are cash accounts, which means they operate like us in a checking account. They operate on what they have in their account. The budgeted account, what we're talking about, is you budget on what you're hoping comes in that next year. So just to clarify, not agreeing on any side, just saying that there's two different kinds of accounts that we deal with.
And I'd like to say too that, you know, our commissioners, I mean, they don't want to fire anybody.
No.
They don't want anybody to go anywhere. But this is just a discussion. It's not saying.
There's
well,
no decision being made
da-da-da-da,
today.
You're all fired. But, and so I think our commissioners are trying. They are trying.
We basically, because of the situation we're in, we're looking at every option that we can to try to figure out, so we can be informed, and not like having her come explain all this today, is so we can be informed on what they're offering, what it's going to end up saving us over time, you know, and all those types of things. And I think she's answered a lot of those questions for us today. And but no, this is just a discussion to try to figure out, and we've got other things that we've got to look at within the budget to try to figure out, you know, even if we was to do this, we're still not even close to where we got to get to.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to look at all kinds of things within the budget and be very imaginative to try to figure out how to get things done, to get to that point. So.
Next question, Kim.
Yes, apparently MS is the only ones with money in the room. So is there any way, and I'm looking at Trent, is there any way that you all would want to take over 911?
They can't make that decision.
But I mean, we're looking at different options, is there?
These commissioners will probably go to more meetings. I mean, nothing's gonna be made a decision here. They will go talk to other entities and stuff, but you can't put a EMS board member on the spot going, will you?
No, I'm just, that's an idea to me that.
They've already thought of this also,
So
yeah.
we're open to any ideas or what,
I think what Tim is
$450,000
asking, would they be
donation?
open to
Right?
that?
I mean, if anybody'd like to make a donation, we're
Every-
open to.
I know where every group puts in a certain percentage into that to pay for it. I think what you're getting at, like,
911 has been very open to helping us on other things. When we had other issues come up, we went to 911 and talked to them. EMS, sorry, EMS, and talked to them about other issues that were up in previous years. And they've always been very receptive of helping anywhere.
What kind of timeline are we looking at?
It
Well-
sounds like everything's gonna take time.
Yeah, if this was to something that was to happen, what kind of timeline would it be? From the
It's gonna
point
be a
that it
while,
was
it's not gonna be today, it's not gonna be in 3 months, you're looking at 6 to 9 months.
So that's not gonna help our budget for this upcoming year.
No, I kind of mean like you guys do, like,
Yeah, like when
as
you
far as
like-
like, as far as when the three of you say, yeah, this is what, like, we're out of options, this is what we gotta do, what kind of timeline are you three looking at?
In our perfect world, we'll have our budget signed August 1, but that does not happen. You know, just like the schools, we gotta wait on the schools' budget, we gotta wait on EMS's budget, before we can even send our budget. I mean, we have to have all of those budgets and our budget before we can take them to the city. So, I mean, are the schools gonna be delayed with the legislative decisions? Yes. Is EMS gonna be delayed? I don't know. They're very good about always getting theirs to us by the end of July. But then, yeah, we'll have to have our budget done, and your taxes revolve around that. We get the schools' budgets, we get EMS's budget, we get our budget, we take them to the city, and then we have to wait 2 weeks for a protest period. And then Jennifer has to continue her job, and then she sends them over to the treasurer, and then it still takes the time for the treasurer. And so, I mean, all of this is just a cycle of everybody working together. So if any one point of that is delayed, then the whole system is delayed.
Well, I guess kind of what I'm getting at too, just to try to calm emotions, is that this isn't happening tomorrow.
No.
Can I also say on the dire prediction I made, Sarah said that she had enough, she could operate a year. Magic wand, today, everything's settled, they decide, we've got this figured out, hypothetical. That $300,000 cut, that's next year. That's not even this year. That's on top of what we're talking about this year. That's on top of. So,
So we need 700,000 next year. Next year,
But
in the next year, we're
you guys are saying it's gonna take time, so this really probably won't even affect
right.
the next year's budget, right? Because we're gonna have to go into next year before we even go if we were to go with Wood County. So it's already,
You're still looking
I mean, it's still going to be
That's what I mean.
in this year's budget.
If they decided this right now today, everything was good, we were set, we had a plan,
It's still.
next year we still have to cut another $300,000.
So that would be so is this a stopgap for the immediate scenario that we do cut this? And obviously, I understand it's a year contract, but we've stopgapped this and we're still 700,000 or just say half that. That's kind of what you said, right? I don't want to disclose you. We cut it and then we lose that, but we still have to come back and we've set our projections are down. They're going to continue probably unless something miraculous happens. So then we cut this year, but now what are we going to do next year? So
Right.
we're halfway there.
Right.
I'm not confrontational, I'm just looking at it, that we're gonna have some people that lose their jobs. You know, we're gonna lose this dispatch for us to Woods County. That's, if they do a great job, great. But have we just put a Band-Aid for now, and then we're still going to be in the same scenario next year because our projections are down?
This is not the first cut that we've had.
No,
We had
I don't.
600,000 one year, we had 500,000 one year, we had 400,000 one year, we had 300,000 this year. I mean, 400,000 this year.
That's what I
Well,
wanted
this
to,
is,
We've
we're
been
gonna rip the
Band-Aiding.
Band-Aid off.
We've been Band-Aiding
We
this
still
Yeah.
have
for
more injuries.
that's what I wanted to respond
the
to.
14 years I've been here.
That's why I wanted to respond that there was the question, there was 2 questions that stuck out to me today. And I think y'all have to know, I personally, my kids have used EMS, and I still get emotional about how grateful I am to Alfalfa County for having 911. But the question was asked, why is it always dispatch? My answer to that is it's not only dispatch, and I am so grateful to what has happened in my life for my kids, but it's not only dispatch. And the other question was, so this is about money, not health care. No, this is about community. This is about community, and I depend on our community to support our families. And unfortunately, we're not a rich community in the sense that I don't want kids going home from school without food, so we have backpack programs. We don't want situations where people have house fires. We pour in as a community and we provide clothes. This is not a matter of money over people. This is a matter of we're stuck. We're stuck, and we need to figure this out.
I know this is something probably the commissioners talk about, Gary, you and I talked about this, and you can correct me if what I'm saying is wrong or off, but there could come a time in Woods County where they get new elected officials. And at that time, those elected officials could say, this is not what they want.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So then us, Grant, Harper, whoever, are left scrambling. Is there, if this is something we did, if something we went forward with, is there going to be a contingency plan built in, or are we just going to be, kind of be scrambling to try to pick up the pieces if they decided they didn't want us and we get dropped?
I can answer that question.
It's gonna cost you $250,000 more because this isn't working out, because we've got to add more dispatchers, whatever, more, you know, we talk about grants, and we all know that grants are not 100%.
Yeah.
You know, so when they talk about grants for equipment, things like that, until that needs on the dotted line, there's nothing there. I understand there are things with a lot of, just like there is for the fire departments and different things, but grants aren't a sure thing, and that doesn't mean that those grants are going to be there.
And then that money will fall back on us and our expenses.
That's what I'm saying, that'd be an expense back to our county, because they're not going to pay for our infrastructure to keep us. It's gonna come back to you guys.
As a merger, that'd be my main concern is, yeah. I mean, it could happen here, it could happen in either county, Alfalfa or Woods, you get different commissioners, that is a concern. And obviously, all the equipment would be outdated, you'd be buying everything new, yes.
That would be, like I
Can
said, a great thing.
can I?
Yes, yes.
So I didn't say this and I should have included it. We do set aside, we only were able to afford to keep dispatch service costs down, 10% for capital outlay, and we do have quite a bit built up for that to supplement if the grant goes away. However, the state of Oklahoma, 911, we're setting on quite a bit of grant funding, so we don't see that going away in the future, but we have been very aware we need to spend that money and put it back into communities before legislators come after it, because that's already been a concern when they see you have a pot of money set aside. But so yes, and unfortunately there's no guarantees. We can't do a multi-year contract. We can't guarantee tomorrow that, Damien doesn't go on, we get somebody new and they push for us to go. I hate that, but if we are under the same pressure of what they are day to day. And, there was something else I was going to speak to now. So yeah, there are no guarantees. And then the other thing would be is if you were to come aboard in a year, we would reevaluate call numbers. So those calls that he was concerned about doubling up on or something, there would be a better way, an easier way to kind of separate those out. Whereas because CAD, you can kind of customize your reports and do that automated versus pulling something from Otis and looking at 10,000 calls individually. So you'll have a more accurate record in it. That could change some of those costs.
Does anybody else have anything?
I think one of you mentioned you're looking at options.
We're looking at everything.
Other options that you kind of have lined out, maybe?
There's other things that we can look at, as far as trying to figure out how to get this done, to get toward it. It's just such a large amount this year from all the cuts that we've already had to make and all the shuffling we've had to do, basically taking money from here to there just to try to get the budget to work over the last several years. We're just kind of getting to that point where we've got to look at all kinds of things. And there's, like I said, there's other options. We can, we could see if maybe the city of Cherokee, city of Helena, and the EMS wanted to help out and split maybe some of this cost on it. But that's the two main options is what we got really, and that would be totally up to them if anybody wanted to help chip in to help pay for it.
To keep it here.
Yeah, to keep it here.
To keep it here.
To keep it here, yeah. A couple of years ago, Gary and I went to the city of Helena and talked to them about this, and they acted like back then, of course, it's different now, so I don't know what their response will be. We haven't spoken to them yet. We just wanted to get the information from Woods County so we know this part of it. So we at least know this part of it, and then we can go from there and look at all the other different things that we can try to come up with.
You mentioned that you track the fire crews.
Yes, sir.
And the ambulances. What kind of expense is that going to be on the departments to put that equipment in their vehicles?
I would say first, it's not a requirement. We heavily endorse it whenever, and we reacted instead of being proactive. So, we had an injury and luckily they found them pretty quick. Harper County is in the process of coming on board with that because of their injury accident. Whenever you have to call a wife and have them look up their husband's location on Life 360 to find your missing firemen who are unaccounted for, it kind of changes things. So pricing for that, they were running a Cell Verizon is who they used, was $11 per month per truck. And then it was like $1,000 if you wanted it on an iPad. So they did one iPad and put it on their command vehicle so they could then see. That's the other thing with GeoSafe is it's GPS tracking for us in dispatch, but for the field responder, if you're the IC, you're tracking your units that are on scene, but you're also getting live updates from CAD. So as soon, because we have it integrated into CAD, we're putting call details in, updated locations. You can see people go en route. So if we call for mutual aid and Eileen sends a vehicle, or not vehicle, but you know what I mean, an apparatus, we would put it in a narrative and whoever was ICing on scene. So Kyle from Tacoma would see that you've got 2 brush rigs and a tanker coming his way. So it has a lot of good features. We've used it. One of our PD officers got into a pursuit, got up into Kansas where there's no cell reception and you're not familiar with the roads. We were able to luckily have radio, and where we're following them, turned on our orthos and said, are you coming up to a T intersection? Hey, you're about to hit this, and able to guide them through their pursuit because they're unfamiliar in dark territory. So It's $11 is what it was per apparatus per month, and then I think like a one-time $800 fee. And 911 money cannot be used for third-party apps like that, so you're active, I'm sure you guys pay for that. If you were to come on board and you wanted to get on GeoSafe, you'd be responsible for that. From the officer standpoint, they do have a citation and a ticketing portion. I don't know what the costs are for that, but they're able to run their own 28s and 43s on there. So actually when they run traffic now in Woods County, they'll call out location and a tag. And then we can see them on GeoSafe, and they're running their own 43s and conducting business as usual.
What about GeoSafe? Is that something we would just be added to yours, or is that going to be an expense on the county?
No, you would add it to us. As long as we dispatch for you, you could come forward. A few years ago, Grant County wanted their own. Woods County pays $15,000 for it yearly. You get 50 devices, and volunteer firemen are not included, or volunteer fire services are not included in that. When Grant County broke off on their own, I think it was up to $21,000 for just Grant County for their 5 users. So that's again a cost share that's much more affordable on that.
So would Woods County be willing to change from GeoSafe? Because I know we've ran with Tacoma on a lot of calls and it never worked.
What do you mean?
You get, out here Verizon doesn't work. So.
Verizon, what didn't work?
9 times out of 10, I mean, I've looked at their trucks and talked to your guys and it doesn't work because there's so many dead spots in Verizon. So would you guys be willing to look at something different?
A different GPS tracking?
I can't justify out of our county budget spending money on something that doesn't work.
I've never encountered, like there may be, if you're moving, it takes it a second to adjust. I've never seen it in Tacoma. I've seen it Freedom Way where there's no, there's hardly anything but cows up there. And even that's not the best, but I would be curious of those incidents because, but you guys, were you using GeoSafe at that time? So how were you going to see it if you weren't? I guess I'm confused about.
Because I was talking to your guys.
Oh, okay, and they just said they couldn't see whoever they were looking for?
I talked to Miller and I talked to Scholing.
Okay.
And, you know, that Dewey Road fire last summer, majority of the fire, half of my guys were with Woods County and the other half, we were off on our own deal. And so in order for me to find our guys, I talked to them and they couldn't even find theirs.
Okay.
I mean, it was a big dead spot for the whole incident.
So I would say.
Also, like when we go up on the river, out north here, I mean, nothing gets phone service up there.
Yes, we are open to talking about any technology, and that would be probably something that would be had on that 911 board I mentioned. So we do talk about any concerns like that. But I'm really curious. I'm going to follow up with them and see. I didn't realize there was any problems with it not tracking them. So.
Well, and then, so like there in Carmen where we run older trucks, how does that work with them?
I mean, it's just a toggle on the trucks, and if you didn't, because you can either get the toggle on the trucks, which is the $11 a month, or you just put it on your phone, and there's no cost for that on your phone. And the other thing is it doesn't have to be Verizon. Some of them have the AT&T side. A lot of them on the iPads went with AT&T because at the time that they deployed in Woods County, it was cheaper to go AT&T than what it was for Verizon.
And how much so it's $11 for the toggle plus the Verizon or AT&T, or what did you say, just getting the cell service did it cost?
I don't like the PD, Alva PD, all of theirs are on the cell service. I don't think that there is a monthly charge for their GeoSafe. I can clarify with that because they pay their bill separately. If you came on board, your fire department would probably have your own. Woods County pays I think on all county rigs, they pay that monthly bill. So, but again, any technology that isn't working, that's part of the board, the advisory board's discussion, and we would be open to any suggestion on looking at it. If something doesn't work, we don't want to waste our money, throw your money at something. But I think GeoSafe, for the most part, does what it needs to do. And they've been saying for 20 years, but maybe in another 20 we'll get better cell coverage out this way. Hopefully get some towers up. The other thing that we didn't talk about was Tango. We don't have, you guys use Tango, right? So things like that, we would have to look at how to incorporate that into our processes and stuff, so.
What representation would Alfalfa County have on that advisory board?
Yes, sir. You would have a county commissioner and a first responder representative. And we've set it up that way because we want a voice to first responders that, you're the ones using the product, so you need to have an opinion on it. And then we need somebody that's signing the paycheck to also be in the know of what we're thinking and what direction we want to go in.
Okay, there's nothing else, let's just get a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.